cheatthecoin.com.
Welcome back to the show, guys. This week we have the executive editor at Decrypt and also author of Kings of Crypto, which you might have read, Jeff John Roberts. Hey, Jeff, how's it going?
Real good, Blake. Thanks for having me on.
No, we definitely, we've been following this market, and we thought, as kind of a commentator, I guess. It's great to get your take on where things are at and where you think things are going. Well, I saw recently you put out an article talking about, what kind of caused this bloodbath that's just recently gone down. I guess some of the key ones I saw in there, you were mentioning the China FUD, I guess, to start. Yeah, I mean, what's your take on that? Do you think it seems to be constantly come in cycles, China FUD, but do you think it will just keep coming around, or how do you think that's going to play out?
Yeah, I mean, I think China, FUD and non-FUD didn't help, but I think the really important thing to remember is it's never just one thing. This is crypto, and this is what it does. It's, it builds up, and it goes on a crazy bull run. And then at a certain point, the prices just get too high, and they're waiting for something to pop it. But it's usually a constellation of stuff. In this case, it was, China didn't help. Markets were skittish. Elon is like stuff of like Bitcoin good, Bitcoin bad, Doge good, all that stuff just made the market skittish. And then we've got some weird macroeconomic stuff. There's fears of inflation. The Fed's still printing money like crazy. So all of that is just enough to spook the markets. And then also a bunch of guys out there too who were like, leveraged as hell with a bunch of kind of long positions they couldn't close. The margins were called in on them. That produces a mass selling. The market panics, and the cycle of life continues.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty interesting as well, talking about the Elon stuff. So last week we had on Marshall Long, who's a bit of an OG miner in the space, and he was talking about this as well. Like, it's interesting to see how Elon's stock is changing in crypto. And how the opinion of him as sentiments changed. How do you think that's going to look for him going forward? Do you think as a whole this is he just working in the benefit of for his stakeholders at Tesla, or how do you think he's going to play it going forward?
I don't know. I mean, I can't figure Elon out. I mean, he's got to be the most interesting entrepreneur in a generation, but what makes him tick, God knows. I'm not sure too why he touted Bitcoin and then pissed all over it and then walked that back, and then he's playing with Doge. I don't know what his game is. I really, really don't. I think he's just having fun trolling everyone, or maybe he's playing eighth dimensional chess. I really don't know. I mean, you guys are, your guess is as good as mine. What do you think?
Oh, well, I mean, if he was playing 4D chess, then my opinion is that he would be promoting Doge while actually not owning much Doge. Just in case the SEC were to come after him because of all the tweets, because then you can hold a massive amount of Bitcoin, but actually promote something else, but that other thing you don't own. So that's like my 4D take. But on the price manipulation, it just looks like someone who's just learning something in a very public way, because he's going through all the criticisms we've had for Bitcoin for like the last 10 years. He's just now learning about that at a very fast speed and being public about it. So now he's like mining bad. Next he'll be proof of stake good, and then he'll be, oh wait, proof of stake might not work, so then mining. That's what I think.
It's pretty interesting as well about talking about the learning in public thing. I know you mentioned this the other day about Michael Saylor, for example. He's been doing a lot of that, it seems, because you've been pretty impressed with what the stuff he's been putting out, right?
Yeah, I mean, Michael Saylor, he seems more of like an old school scholar dude. So he'll just probably sit around reading for years, and then he'll make the videos. Elon will make the videos first and then read, which is probably smart because you can learn really fast by criticizing something in public, because everyone will come to defend it or to support you. So it's like everybody's doing your homework for you.
Yeah, that makes as much sense as anything I've heard. But the other takeaway from Musk is, and I think people are right on this, like Bitcoin's got a bit of a problem. and crypto's got a problem. If one man can move markets that way, it's like there's all sorts of other assets. So I think that sort of reflects that, crypto is still maturing. It's a lot more mature than it was the last boom and bust cycle. I mean, I covered 2013 closely. I covered 2016, 17 closely. And, things are a lot less fragile this time around, but the volatility is still there. People got used to things being smooth, and Bitcoin's still volatile as ever.
Wow, that's I didn't know you covered 2013 one. I was definitely around for that, and then the great winter that followed, because like I work in the industry, I was running an exchange, and nobody's signing up. There's no trading volume. It was at the point where you wouldn't go online and find articles saying Bitcoin is dead, because there would literally be no articles about crypto. Nobody gave a shit, which is the worst. I'll much rather take obituaries than just complete silence and despair.
No, I feel you, because I covered Bitcoin early I worked for a tech blog called GigaOM, and I was writing about it, and there was this bit of interest, and we were early. And then by 2014, I was like, you gotta stop writing about that. Like, no, this is real. This is real. And then, okay. Then when 2016 came around, I was working at Fortune magazine. They're like, there's stuff right about it. And, wrote the hell about it. And then like by 2018, they're like, can you stop writing about this? So it's yeah, I've seen the cycles before, and I understand your frustration.
I wanted to touch as well on so you wrote the book on Coinbase, so definitely thought we could jump into that a little bit and see how after the recent listing and the company going public, what obviously the stock price is down a little bit, right? It's just kind of reflecting the market a little bit. But how do you think they fare if we do go into kind of a bear market here?
I think they're a sophisticated company, and they know a bear market's coming. So their balance sheet is very good. I mean, recent news is they floated these this type of bonds where they just raised a bunch of money because interest rates are so cheap. So they're building a war chest. And I mean, what people have found to notice, their stock price, I think, was a bit inflated on the opening day. But right now, I mean, they're profitable. A lot of the other stars in Silicon Valley, like Uber, still loses a shit ton of money. So there's like DoorDash, and all these companies just sort of struggle along, losing buckets of money. Coinbase makes money, and they've been very astute about their M&A, and they're building to add, they're kind of in a race though to add other revenue streams before their trading service gets commoditized. Because right now I think people are starting to wake up. Yeah, their fees are high compared to others, and they're kind of exposed to that. I think when they went public, like 85% of the revenues from trading commissions, and that's bad, because when you go into the quiet periods, the trading falls off a cliff, and no trades means no money for them. But I think they're anticipating this, and their corporate treasury is such, they've got they're sitting on a lot of money to ride out the next crypto winter. So I think long term they'll be fine.
Do you think there's any future in Coinbase Pro? And it's kind of a loaded question, because I think it's I remember when they were making it, because I interviewed to join in making it, and these guys had no experience at all in finance or trading engines or that kind of stuff. And even after this long of a time, and with all the resources they have at Coinbase, it's still shit. So do you think they're just looking to acquire somebody?
Yeah, I don't really, play in those markets. I mean, I don't trade much because I'm a journalist. I can't. And I lack the sophistication of someone like you who's like built an exchange and knows the guts. But I do talk to people, and I've heard it before, what you're saying, that their product is kind of shitty compared to Binance or Kraken or Wabi or some of the more innovative exchanges. Yeah. But what I think they've done is they're honing in on the American market. They're moving towards Wall Street. They stood up a prime brokerage, and they're just going to start siphoning off like the big, Wall Street pension funds and the conservative things that want something that looks like Morgan Stanley, and that's who they're targeting. So I think they might, it's shit compared to some of the other products, but what they're doing is just kind of aiming for a certain segment of deep pockets in America. And then also, I think on the regulatory front, they know like Washington is on the warpath, and they're, going to basically lobby to keep Binance out and keep big competitors out. So, I think they can get away with having from what I've heard is a product that is perhaps inferior to some of the other ones. But again, I mean, that's not my day job. I'm not on those platforms all day long. So, but I think that would be the strategy and might explain why, they have not been as innovative as Binance and some of the others.
So that basically puts them up. That means they're gonna like front run Gemini on their plan.
Pretty much. I mean, Gemini has been kind of at it forever, but I think there's a big first mover advantage. And this all applies to the US, and I realize like Asia, I think is a lot more nimble, and perhaps more sophisticated, but America's still a very big market with a lot of capital. And if they can get that, and I mean, Gemini has kind of been dicking around for years trying to do this. I remember I worked in New York and they hired these buses like to drive around Wall Street.
I saw that. It was so cringy.
Yeah.
Crypto needs rules.
It didn't move. Yep. And it didn't move the needle at all. They started at like 1% market share and they finished with, after spending $1 million on these stupid buses, with 1% market share. So, who knows? Maybe they'll surprise us, but I think Gemini is still kind of a minnow.
I mean, at least they own 1% of the Bitcoin too. So,
yeah, they came out okay on that front. So,
yeah, the Winklevi not doing too bad, I don't think.
Yeah, don't cry for the Winklevi.
Yeah. I was gonna ask as well. So, talking about like Coinbase, trying to create new revenue streams and work on different stuff. I saw that Brian Armstrong had put out a blog post that you wrote about talking about becoming a media company, right? And does that just sound like I do agree with your idea in the post. A comment about it saying that this is just PR and not necessarily it's hard to be a media company if you're already you have a product already. So it's kind of going the wrong way round. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I mean, I want to be careful because I think journalists can be sort of like, sensitive. It's like, hey, this is my job, don't disrupt my industry. But I mean, this has gone on for a while. I mean, and I think companies can and should do this. If you can own some of your own media. In the past, you absolutely had to rely on like the business press, New York Times, the FT to get your story out. Now you don't. Everyone's got a platform, but this isn't really new. And so if they want to do that, who cares? Sure. So everyone else is doing the same thing. This isn't this earth shaking. The only thing that kind of pissed me off was that we're going to publish the truth. It's like, come on, dude.
Yeah.
This is like, let's see how far the editor you hire gets when he writes something you disagree with. So, I think it's sort of, immature and, kind of
it's very
arrogant too.
It's very, very, very San Francisco to be saying those kind of things. It's like Facebook, they're like, no, we're just gonna fact check. We're just gonna put what's true there because we know that. It's extremely San Francisco. Every company has its own version of the truth, which is objectively correct.
Yep. And also, I think, yeah, you're very right. It is exactly San Francisco, Silicon Valley, because it's the same group of people. And, if you're not careful, if you only listen to like, people just like you're going to assume your view of the world is the truth. And in their case, it's heavily driven by the venture capital firm Mark Andreessen, Andreessen Horowitz, and the partner, Mark Andreessen, who's a genius. But he's also kind of a mentor to both Mark Zuckerberg at Facebook and Brian Armstrong at Coinbase. And this is what he's been saying along with Balaji Srinivasan. And this is just kind of the idea in that small set of like libertarian, billionaire Silicon Valley people. And their version of the truth is very different than like, you're staying on an island in Thailand, you said. I'm sure the people there, their view of the truth is, probably not the same as those guys.
The view of the truth here is that that 5G gives you cancer and that chemtrails are real.
There you go. So, and to some people, that's the truth. So
I do take offense though that you say that these guys are libertarians. I think they're extremely self-serving capitalists with some very odd social justice thing put in there that doesn't quite make sense.
Well, it sounds nicer if you call it libertarian.
Fine.
What do you think about so obviously FTX, for example, and Binance, kind of two big competitors in the space that are definitely trying to break into the US market. I know you touched on this a little bit earlier. How do you think they fare? going against Coinbase? And do you think that they can really like muscle their way into that market and actually, get some market share there?
I don't know. Binance, no, because they're just so radioactive with the regulators. I mean, CZ's out there like trolling everyone. I've got, I know CZ. I got a lot of respect for what he's doing, but I just think like, there's in the US right now, there's a lot of sensitivity over people moving in on the money supply. You start like the two things that matter most to governments are the army and the currency. And if you start like messing with the currency, watch out. And I mean, I realize that's kind of Bitcoin, that's a larger story, but you got to really, play nice, watch where you're going. And that's why Coinbase is where they are. I think Binance, well, there's a China factor too, geopolitical relations between China and the US. So it's pretty easy for Coinbase lobbyists to say, keep these guys out, they're Chinese, whether that's true or not. I'm just saying the sentiment in America is there's a strong kind of anti-Chinese sentiment. So Binance, I think, is just going to have a very hard time. FTX, on the other hand, and Sam is, he's everywhere these days, and he, I think, has a real chance to disrupt things. I mean, he's innovative. He's building stuff left and right. His Solana blockchain, his trading platforms. He's the guy to watch. But do they want to, go? They each have their lane though. He's looked up the futures market. Coinbase has got their thing. So I think they'll probably be frenemies for a while. And I think Coinbase, like it or not, is going to be, they've got a big first mover advantage. It's kind of like Facebook. Everyone hates Facebook. And whenever Facebook does something shitty again, I'm going to quit Facebook, delete Facebook. But no one ever does. That's the problem. It's just because it's convenient. That's what everyone else uses. And I think these platforms are more sticky than people think. I'm not talking about like the kind of cowboy global traders. I'm talking about just your average kind of guy who buys, $200 a Bitcoin. And it's so, that's my read on it right now. I think long term, definitely keep your eye on Sam Bankman-Fried. He's the up and coming. He's the new challenger. And Binance, I don't know. I could see the whole thing blowing up in a year. Hope it doesn't. But he just sees he plays so fast and loose. It could be trouble sooner or later.
Yeah, it's what we call a proper shitcoin casino.
Yeah,
indeed.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see how it plays out, right? And we all will become clear, I guess, as we enter either a bear market, a bull run, or we just go sideways for forever, indefinitely. What about with Coinbase listing Doge? So I think that's coming in the next week or so, I think.
Well, yeah, it already went up 40% yesterday. So yeah.
Do you think they're just pandering to kind of the dog investors that have kind of come into the market lately, or?
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone else is Doge. I think they just added to Pro today. It just arrived, and yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's crazy. Whenever we write a story about Doge, the headlines, the clicks, the interest is, there's just a new force out there. It's the same people who are buying like game share stock and like meme stocks. And to me, I don't get this, but it's I'm also done writing them off because they move markets. So I still don't understand it, but I've also like, this is a force that's to be reckoned with and isn't going away. So I still don't get Dogecoin. It seems ridiculous, but it's got enough fans who have moved the market enough times that I'm just going to sit back and see what happens. You guys are you're the shitcoin show. Tell me what's up with Doge.
Well, were you around for the first Doge pump?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've seen it.
So you remember
quite like this.
You remember that Jamaican bobsled team and and the Doge car, all of this. So I have to say, I thought that was enough. Like it's such a meme revival. Like, what's next? Are we gonna start talking about Dash again? Like, what? Are we just recycling this garbage now? That's I think that's a very scary sign for the market as a whole, and like a bear market to come. Is that we've ran out of things to pump, so now we're just looking in the trash. That's what I think.
Yeah. Well, that's what's going on in the stock market too. And I mean, I want to be respectful of some of your listeners because, I don't know if you're watching. All right. You guys are morons. I don't understand, but it's, it's the same thing happened with the stock market. They were picking stocks out of the trash, like AMC movie theaters, GameStop. There's, call me old school, but there's fundamentals, I think, both to crypto projects and to companies. And that should inform the price at least a little bit. But in the new world we live in, it's a bunch of Reddit cowboys who are like, this one, pull it out of the trash, pump the shit out of it. And I don't know, it's they're a force.
It's definitely a crazy world we live in, eh? And we got Shiba Inu. I mean, there's there's like, I think there's probably 200 plus different dog tokens now. So we're going really into we're getting really into the nitty gritty of the shit now. I think it's only gonna get worse. But I think I think that kind of wraps it up. Really appreciate your time, Jeff. It's been great having you on. And we'll be sure to leave the links to your articles on Decrypt and any we've mentioned, also to your social profiles as well.
The book.
And the book. Yeah, we'll make sure to link the book in the description too. Right. You guys should definitely check that out. But we really appreciate your time.
Thanks, Jeff.
Okay, it was a lot of fun. Thanks very much, guys. Hope to do it again.
Shitcoin.com